where we need to have a quorum physically present in the room to conduct business. As I said, I'm not convinced of the legality of declaring home rule and just doing virtual meetings on our own. Now, this council decided it wanted to meet in person several months before the virtual meeting provisions expired anyway. You made a decision that this is how you wanted to proceed. You have COVID and social distancing protocols in place in your chambers. We're all wearing masks. We're all spread out. And quite frankly, that's how most of the cities I work in are operating at this point. Well, all of them, actually, now at this point, now that we're into November. So long answer to a short question. I hope that answered the question.
It did.
I'm aware that the numbers are moving in not the direction we want, and if the governor reinstitutes that provision, he may not, I don't know. But tonight, it has not happened.
Okay. Thank you, Keith.
I think that council actually had the conversation, which is why it happened before the governor's order expired, because we felt that we could be better doing the business of the people in chambers at the time, that's what we had said at the time, that we wanted to be together. Obviously, now we have a resurgence, if you will. And I guess my question would be, I know legally at this time we have to stay within the law. My fear is, and Keith and I discussed this, if we pass an ordinance, but yet we were not doing it in chambers, and that is what the state requires, and would we have done something that is not valid, in other words. So my question for council, are we still resolute about meeting in public like this? Do we want to continue that way?
I would support that we continue to follow the guidelines
Okay.
of the CDC, and from that point, if we need to have a quorum outside, we can do that.
Okay. All right. Frank?
Yeah, at this point, I'm very comfortable meeting in person as we are. I mean, the numbers have spiked up slightly in Florida, but they're still within, if you look at the population of the state, I think the number today was 5,800. I think the number yesterday was 3,900. I mean, it's gone up slightly, but it's not like some of these other states across the country where the numbers have increased dramatically. So I think at this point in time, the things we're doing, as Keith said, we're doing social distancing, we're wearing masks, we're doing all the right things. I think we're in a good place right now, and we'll see what happens as we go forward.
Okay, fine.
Well, we were all, my philosophy's always been, or my opinion has always been, that we have to abide by the guidelines that are mandated by the state and the county that we are in. But, they're saying that it's going to continue to get worse, and I'm sure that they will respond to that with the right things that they feel that are best for the people of the state of Florida. But, with the Thanksgiving coming up, all the social gatherings that are going to be happening around Thanksgiving and Christmas, I'm afraid that we're going to see some really high spikes and stuff in the COVID. And I think that we're eventually going to have to go back to the virtual meetings and stuff. I think that we're a lot more effective by doing an in-person meeting. And I hope that, they're able to figure something out. Some people are coming out with some pretty positive vaccines that look promising. So hopefully those things will kick in soon enough that we can start nipping this stuff in the bud. But thanks again, Keith, for your information stuff on that.
The mayor's comments, actually, if I can just add one more item to what I wanted to tell you, I'd forgotten, but your comment reminded me, anecdotally, I have heard, in the handful of cities that have declared home rule and adopted their own ordinance, that the argument is, well, we'll just do it, and if anybody challenges us, then we'll have a regular meeting to cure the violation, which if that's the attitude, that tells you that even they're of the belief that what they're doing is not lawful,
Right.
and they'll just figure out a way to fix it after the fact. So,
Okay.
I mean, you could flip it too and say, home rule, I'm not going to do anything, and we're going to have no space, right? Or have as many people come in here as we want. I don't know that I'm not suggesting that, but that's the same concept.
It's the
just
same
reversed.
argument flipped around.
Yeah.
You're right.
Right.
Well, some
Okay.
of them, I believe that, are saying that they feel like that with the increases that by the time it does become a legal issue and stuff for them, that they're gonna start mandating, we go back to the virtual meetings
Right.
anyway, so it'll be really won't be a moot point, actually.
Well, and every city has its own unique characteristics, and this council needs to decide what's best for Tequesta, regardless of what anybody else might be doing.
Right, right. All right, Councilmember Deambra, you have anything?
No, not tonight. I'm
Okay,
good.
Vice Mayor.
I just have some questions for the manager when he gives his report, so just heads
We'll
up.
wait until then. All right, my question had to do with what Councilmember Prince brought up, so we can move past that. And let's see, standing reports will start, and that would be item 8, Village Manager Jeremy Allen.
If I could, just for a minute, redirect you back to item number 2 in the CRS grading, and I just want to take the time to acknowledge Lynn Britt over here in the back. She put an amazing amount of time into that, and the scoring for that. It's a FEMA thing that we have to do every 5 years, and she put an amazing amount of time into it. Then when we got our score, she didn't like the scoring that they gave us, and she went through and appealed the process, which I said we didn't need to, but she took it upon herself and did it herself. So just want to acknowledge the hard work, dedication that you put in, and I appreciate it. You know, with that scoring, could help with some of our insurance rates and our citizens. So, they have a goal to get down to a 6, we're at a 7, and I just applaud that effort. And so thank you for that.
Thank you, Lynn.
Part of the other part of the report, just kind of echo what we've been talking about, the COVID situation. Chief is, monitoring that daily, and so we're seeing some sizable spikes around the county. We haven't seen a huge jump in hospitalizations at this point, but everybody's on high alert with emergency management part, and so we're just going to continue to monitor it. We haven't changed anything, and so we'll just take some leadership from the governor. Brad and Lori have worked extremely hard to update our website. The new website will go live on November 17th, so keep an eye out for that. I should have some good improvements and some additional functionality. We have sworn in our new officer. Usually we have a big swearing in. We invite the public. We did it on a small scale with just in-house staff, but Mr. Luis Lopez is part of our team now. And so if you get a chance to meet him, welcome to the team. I know Mr. Stone has met him, and so if you get a chance, welcome him. He seems like he's going to be a great fit for our community and our department. Fall Festival, we opened that up to 250 people for 2 sessions, come up on Saturday with all the, COVID mitigation strategies in place. Within a day, we had all the 500 slots were filled. Obviously we hoped we get everybody involved in the community. So I know Greg and his team have done a good job of planning that event and mitigating the strategies, and also working on the next event so we can try to get back to, obviously want to get back to the way that Tequesta is, and, the events that we love. So, but it should be a great event, and, hopefully we can do more of them. And with that, that's my report. If you have some questions, I can entertain any questions you have.
I do, if you don't mind. A couple months ago, we had some concerns about speeding on Willow Road. And I know that the chief put some extra crews out there. Can there be any more further discussions on trying to continue the speeding to slow it down for people passing through?
On Willow specifically? I can give you guys the full report. I believe that the citizen that had the concerns, I believe Chief talked to him, showed him the results, and I think it was a perceived issue more than the actual issue, but we had the results. We shared it with the people that were of concern. So I don't know there's a need for additional work there, but I can share those results with you guys.
If you don't mind, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Also, a couple months ago, we met with, associated with the Northern Palm Beach Chamber about hurricane and disaster preparedness, that program. Is that moving forward at all?
The resiliency thing that
Yeah.
I haven't heard. Let me circle around. That's been kind of dropped, but let me pick that ball back up.
And then lastly, putting the turning lane on Old Dixie. heading south there by Tequesta Drive. It seems like we're getting a little bit more of some of our population increasing as we head into the season. And I received a complaint, not from a resident, but someone that uses that road, that once they pass Tequesta Drive, there's kind of like a rally to get into the right lane to go right, to go on alternate A1A.
So past Tequesta
Yep,
Drive,
there
past
seems to
the
be
turn.
some aggressive driving in that area,
Okay.
so.
We'll
just
take a look
want
at that, and
to pass that
we'll
on.
get Palm Beach County to look at that with us.
That's all I have.
Okay, anything else for Chairman?
No, ma'am.
All right. We all received the report from Chief Medina, Chief Trube, and Matt Hammond, who is going to be speaking later to several different items. So unless we have questions for them in particular, we'll just move this along.
If I could steal some thunder from Matt, since he's not, our customer portal will be up on Monday, so we'll be able to flip the switch. All of our citizens will have access to their water billing, and so we're super excited to get that going and increase that transparency, and this is what we've been working for a little over a year now, is to get to this point where we have all of our meters in place and we're able to have that customer portal. So we're very excited about that and excited to report it, so.
Thank you. And bless you, Matt, for having to go through what you have had to go through for these last several months. But it's getting a lot better, as we hear. So thank you for that attention to detail, and thank you for calling these people and writing these people. I get, as I know you do too, feedback from the residents, but then I see what you've been doing, and it's really been remarkable. So thank you for that.
If you don't mind, I'll just add real quick. I know
Sure.
that the new system, I believe you contacted my landlord, where my business is, and let him know that there was a small little leak, and he was able to go fix it. So it was very, it just works. So thank you.
That's excellent.
And
All
Mayor,
right.
I apologize.
I'm
Before
sorry.
we move on, can I indulge the council for a moment? If we could go back to the consent agenda, I was advised that there was late information through the clerk's office that item 5 on the consent agenda, which is the SO, the Supervisor of Elections Agreement,
Yes.
actually is not ready for approval. So if I could ask the council to reconsider the consent agenda by motion and then remove item 5 to a future agenda and reapprove the consent agenda without item 5.
So,
That would unwind
all right,
that
that's fine.
issue.
So the motion would be to revisit the consent agenda. Item number 5 in particular would be removed from the consent agenda. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, may I have a,
Supervisor of Elections doesn't have the fee schedule ready, we were waiting on it. and
Okay.
I've heard from
They
them
didn't do
this
it.
afternoon that it's not ready.
all right, may I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Thank you,
very
Mayor.
much. All right, so let's move into the regular agenda. Old business, we have none. Under new business, we will start with item 9, which is to approve construction services manager at-risk agreement with Hedrick Brothers. Jeremy?
Thank you, Mayor. On October 8th, the Village Council awarded construction service manager at risk to Hedrick Brothers Construction. After final rankings were produced and the selection committee unanimously recommended Hedrick Brothers Construction, staff is recommending the approval of the agreement and general conditions to the contract. The service will provide pre-construction and virtual design services, demolition of the building, and construction services. You have some documents in your packet. Hedrick will work with REG to provide pre-construction services and virtual design. They'll work with REG to provide a guaranteed maximum price and time frame for construction. In the agreement, you will see we have a cost for service, which includes demolition and construction for the building. The fee for services for pre-construction services and virtual design is $65,480. Fees for construction services is 6.5% of the cost of the work, plus 1.3% of the cost for general liability services. My past experience with 2 construction projects is that this is a very good negotiated rate. I know Hedrick Brothers is very excited to be here and do the project, so they gave us a very reasonable rate. Every project's a little different, but a negotiated rate of 6.5% is good. Page 1 through 40 of the agreement, which is A201-217, it's the process of the agreement. And the second part of it, starting on page 41, is A133-219, is a document, is a deal in the terms of the agreement itself. So if you wanted to look through what is the agreement, or if you want to talk about change orders and that whole process, that'll kind of break those two divisions out. Basically, they're going to provide a gross maximum price at 75% design drawings, and then they'll have one at completion of the permits. The GMP will be inclusive. It'll have their price, it'll have the bond requirements, have everything. So at the end of this, right before we start construction, we're going to have a one price fits all, and anything that goes over will be either initiated by us. If they go over, it's on them. So, we have that guarantee. If they're able to save us some money in the process where they use, this light switch throughout the building instead of this, and it saves us $20,000, we get 50% of that, they get 50%. So there's an incentive for them to find ways to save money. Of course, it has to be agreed upon, so they don't try to get the lowest possible switch that's going to fall apart. So we'll work with REG, work with our staff to make sure that we're getting a good product and we're not just cutting corners. But there is some incentive to save us some money. We have included a clause for liquidated damages if they don't meet substantial completion. Any unused contingency monies will go back to us 100%. They'll meet with staff daily and weekly. We'll prepare daily logs, monthly reports, provide progress reports to the council, which include cost control and actual cost. We do have a 10% retainage fee built in there until 50% completion. Then it'll move to 5%. So we have some safeguards there. Just my last part is, Hedrick Brothers Construction has a great portfolio of projects that are similar to this. We have negotiated a reasonable fee. Greg and I have met with their team. We're very impressed with them, their professionalism, their responsiveness, and to be frank, they're just very excited to be part of this project. So it's great to see their energy. The president, Eric Emmel, is here. Doug Gordon and Patrick Painter are all here. They can answer any questions regarding the contract or about the services they provide. But I think we have a good partner in this project, and we recommend approval of the agreement.
Do you have any questions for them?
No, ma'am.
Okay, anybody here?
I do.
Okay.
First of all, I want to thank you guys for getting a Gantt chart together that lays out the project timetables. That's something we've been looking for, and I was very happy to see that included. I was also happy to see the delivery date. I understand that isn't an absolute guarantee because things can happen as you go along, but if we're able to deliver December 1st, as you've indicated, I know this community will be exceedingly excited. Just a couple of questions. Some of the things I was going to ask about, Jeremy just covered, but under 1.14 says design and construction milestones. It said to be determined, but we do have the Gantt chart that kind of lays out all the key dates. So is that, how do we fit those two together real quick? Doug, you need to come up to the microphone.
Could you please identify yourself and come to the microphone for us, please?
Doug Gordon, Hedrick Brothers Construction.
Eric Kimmel, President.
Patrick Painter, Vice President of Business and Legal Affairs.
Well, who would like this one?
Yeah, the Gantt chart right now is the durations we're comfortable with. The starts, I will say, are still a work in progress. It's a development with us and REG. We base this off of their deliverables, which was a schedule they gave us. Obviously, as we get into things, when we get into value engineering, we start moving around products or making selections or anything changes, and they need, let's say, another week or two to incorporate that into their documents. We'll reflect that on this. This will be kind of a live document until we get to GMP. At the point of GMP, that's what we'll furnish what we'll call the GMP schedule, and that's the one that will be reflected in the contract.
Okay, all right. The next question I wanted to ask you is, when you talk about your fees as a percentage of the total cost, I'm looking for a definition of total cost. So for example, we've engaged our REG. We're paying them directly. We have a consulting engineer. We're paying them directly. So are the expenditures we're making on it for them, is that part of the total cost that your fee is based on as well? Or is your fee based on the total cost of all the subcontractors and all the work that you guys are actually overseeing?
Yes, that's the cost of construction.
Okay.
Not the soft cost.
So those other costs that we're paying directly, that's not?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. And then one last thing, and again, Jeremy hit on some of the points I was going to ask about. When, under Section 7, when you talk about reimbursable costs and then non-reimbursable costs, and there's several items there, but I'll just pick out one. The statement was that if the project manager is on site, that was a reimbursable cost, but if they were at your offices, it wasn't. And I'm just wondering if the project manager, which I think is Doug, whether he's on site or whether he's working out of the office, if he's working on our project, it just seemed, that just struck me as a bit odd as to why in one case it's reimbursable, in the other case.
So maybe I could speak a little clarity to that, or Patrick, did you want to speak to that?
No, that's fine, go ahead.
The project manager is allotted X amount of time for the project. So his time is billable, and we outline that in the GMP cost under the general conditions. So a project of this size, Doug might have two. We may have, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we have a 50% time in here. So we are being transparent and showing you Doug is here for 50% of the time. He will be here for meetings, he'll bounce in and out, but we've only charged you accordingly, and that's part of our GMP.
Okay, so you're
But
saying,
something like my time is not a reimbursable, that's the office time, or Patrick, for instance. But Doug, we actually outlined his time there.
okay, but I guess what I'm trying to understand is if he's devoting 50% of his time, let's say, to this project, does it make any difference whether he's here or whether he's at your offices if his time is being invested with us? I guess I'm still at a little bit of a loss as to the distinction.
No, not a problem. So there's certain activities that I can conduct on the site, which would involve, needing to be there, meeting inspectors, meeting subcontractors, general interface, and supervision. There's certain activities that I can't do from the site, I have to do from our home office when we do accounting reports, certain submittal
Right.
reviews, different processes that we're much better geared to do from our office where that personnel is. So that's where, as Eric's saying, my time is allocated whatever the percentage that we bid, 40, 50%, but that's a hybrid of where I am and what activities those are need to be done.
And to your original question, so when 7.2.2, which we're gonna have to look at the contract exactly, but it does say when the construction manager is stationed at the site or the principal office. So it's really, and to your original question, this section, Article 7, is really what outlines what our fee is based upon. Those are the reimbursable costs of the work. Anything other than listed in Article 7, .1 would not, our GMP would not be based on any of that.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
But living less than a mile from the site, as much as I can possibly be at the site in the trailer, I will be.
Absolutely.
Which is something else we're excited about, is the fact that both you and Christine are here in Tequesta, your Tequesta residents, your families will be using this facility ultimately, so we're very happy to have you guys on board. And you're not only going to manage this, but you're going to live it ultimately, so you got to obviously live with the end-all product, which I think is a great thing for us.
We're excited.
Thank you, gentlemen, I appreciate it.
Thank you. I have no questions for you, but the Vice Mayor does.
If we have a question, can we come knock on your door?
I think we know what happens.
Fair enough.
That was Jeremy, I have a question for you on this. When do we plan on actually starting any of this work, and when would we be looking at moving money?
So the first part of this is gonna be the demo. I've had talked to them as soon as we authorize and kick off on this. They'll start that schedule. They'll try to, get their team in place and do that. Hopefully we have that demoed and taken care of. That way when we do get the plans, because we gotta wait for REG to have the plans there. Their time frame is in that December final plans, and so hopefully the first of the year, we're gonna hit the ground running. So,
Okay.
and so you'll see coming right around the first of the year too, the authorization to borrow money. So it's all gonna come into place right around January. We can actually start the project and the demo without the authorization to borrow money because we have the funds available. And we also, if you remember, we passed the resolution to reimburse ourselves
Right.
for any expenses that we've already taken on or that we will take on. So we feel very comfortable that it's all gonna take off right around January.
Okay.
But the demo you might see, depending on the time frame, maybe in December or so. We'll see how that works around the holidays, and obviously they have to,
Okay.
mobilize.
I have several comments for you and questions for you, but they don't need to be done this evening. But at our next workshop, I want to talk about authorizations, who's calling who goes to visit people, all of those things. And I just want to make sure that we're clear, but we don't have to do that now because your contract is all set.
Well, those are all outlined in this contract, that
Yeah.
we have 2 people that are authorized to work with them, and
Right.
they understand that too, and that's what they want is, that one source of contact, and so it's all outlined in there, either they're working with Greg or myself, and so it's already lined out, but I'll
And
be
you're
happy to answer any
ultimately approving
questions.
everything?
Yeah.
Everything. Okay, very good.
I do have
Anything else?
one more question, if you don't mind. Constitution Park, in the construction process, what part of the park, other than, are we going to have access to that park?
Yeah, so as part of, I've spent a lot of time with Greg and some of our subcontractors and city consultants on site, trying to make sure that we've identified, because it is an old building, and a lot of the infrastructure to the park actually runs through the existing rec center. So we spent a good amount of time trying to make sure that we've identified anything and everything that we need to make sure that before we start the demolition, we get all of our utilities rerouted to keep Constitution Park up and operational. Additionally, as part of our phasing, I know there was some discrepancy as far as the work on Dover Road. Ultimately, we did elect to do the Dover Road scope at the same time when we start site work, which, would say mid-February-ish, in order to be able to to close off that side entrance to the park. But yes, we're planning on keeping it fully operational as much as possible. There could be a week here or there where if we do need to do a utility shutdown or route some electric, just for the safety of the people. But other than that, no, it's going to stay open.
Okay.
All right, any other questions?
Just one, since you asked your question and Jeremy mentioned money. This doesn't involve Hedrick, but what's the status of the RFP for financing? Where do we stand with that?
We just received all the comments back. It's gonna be hitting the street in the next, and I think that was part of my report on Friday. It's gonna be
Right.
hitting the streets the next week, I believe it'll be hitting the streets. So, it's in the process. I know it was a pretty large document. I saw multiple comments that I haven't even had a chance to sort through myself, but very quick, it's coming, so.
Okay, I just wanted to
Yeah.
have the public be aware of what the time frame on that was as well, so.
Okay.
All right.
Well, like I said at the end, I will want to have a workshop, on our next workshop, to go into some of the finer details. But at this moment, I'd like a motion to approve item 9, that would approve construction services manager Hedrick Brothers.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, yay.
Yeah.
All right, item 10, this is a SEU 0520 application from Royal Tequesta LLC for a special exception, use.
Mayor,
Right.
this is a quasi-judicial proceeding. If I
Yep.
can do the swearing in. If anybody that will be testifying to the village council need to be placed under oath. If you'll all raise your right hands, each of you swear or affirm under penalties of perjury your testimony to the village council will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you. I need to come back to council and ask if any of you have had any ex parte discussions regarding this matter. If so, the general nature of the discussion and with whom you had it, and should be placed on the record at this time.
Yes, I do. I actually bid on this job several months ago, so I'm going to need to recuse myself from being able to have any participation in this discussion or voting.
And the clerk will have a conflict disclosure form for you to fill out, which will be appended to the meeting minutes. As declaring a conflict, you will not be able to participate in the discussion or the vote on this matter.
Okay, thank you.
Were there any ex parte to be disclosed? Seeing none, Mayor, then we can proceed with the item.
All right, thank you. Nielsen?
Yes. Good evening. Madam Mayor, council members. This is an application from Royal Tequesta LLC for an special exception use to build 69-unit fee simple townhomes. You have seen this project back in January and it was approved. So I really would like just to focus on the table 4 of the staff report. What is different from the approved project in January? and what is the same. So as this table in page 4 shows, the proposed project is the same density, 11.44 dwelling units per acre. The number of units is the same, is 69 units as was approved in January. The height of the building, as shown here, is very similar. Right now is 27 feet 6 inches. So, in the architectural design, as you saw, the facades are similar, completely similar to the one that was approved. So, let's talk about what is different from that was approved. So, as this same table shows, what is different is the ownership, the platting. The one that was approved in January, they were condominiums. The one that is being proposed right now, they are fee simple townhomes. So if you saw carefully the site plan drawing, there are lines dividing each small lots. So, and before, they were just condominiums. There were not small lines dividing each lot. So that's the major difference. And our code, the Village of Tequesta code, says that if this is a townhome and if it is a fee simple, then it's an special exception use and it's a PRD, planned residential development. And with that PRD comes some additional requirements from the PRD code. For that reason, the applicant, and they will explain in detail, they are requesting 3 waivers. 3 waivers from the PRD code. And the PRD code allows council to make those approvals, those waivers. So with that in mind, the applicant is here and they have a presentation for the council.
Okay, sorry about that. Good evening, all. Good evening, Mayor, councilors. For the record, my name is Troy Holloway. I'm here representing Tequesta, Royal Tequesta LLC. And with me tonight as well is Steve Cohen, who's with Royal Tequesta LLC as well. Point this at anywhere in particular? Did you do that or did I do that? Okay. Okay, as Nilsen stated, the applicant's request here tonight, we are requesting approval for a special exception use to allow for a planned residential development, also known as a PRD, which is for the previously approved and currently approved 6.03 acre development of 69 townhomes with amenities known as the Reserve at Tequesta. Just quickly, this is the site. Most of you are familiar with it. That's the site there outlined in yellow. It's on the west side of US 1, situated between Casa del Sol and County Line Plaza. Just quick project history. We came before some of you back in December of 2018 for the initial conceptual presentation of this project. Then in 2019, September 2019, we were approved for the future land use designation from commercial to medium density residential, and we also at that time got approval for the rezoning from general commercial to R2. The site plan then was approved for 69 units of condominiums development back in January of 2020. Our reason for this request, which we're here in front of you tonight for, Royal Tequesta, our client, wants to market and sell these units as fee simple townhomes, not as condominiums, as they are approved. And as Nilsen kind of explained, we're here because there's a lot of kind of definition issues that we had with the code. So the R2 zoning, which this is part of, and as it was approved as, allows for multifamily dwellings. But your definitions define multifamily dwellings as, and in quotes there, dwelling multiple means a building or portion thereof used for occupancy by 3 or more families in separate independent units, providing permanent provisions for living, sleeping, cooking, eating, and sanitation. The term includes condominiums, apartments, group homes, and row houses, but specifically excludes townhouses. So although that multiple family definition includes row houses, we thought we might try that, which is defined as follows. A dwelling row means a row of attached or semi-attached one-family dwelling or two-family dwellings containing a total of 3 or more dwelling units or a building in such a row. Again, I'm just kind of giving you guys a kind of a history of where we are tonight. The village attorney determined that definition does not allow for fee simple lot lines because it doesn't really specify that. So the next direction, it was determined that the townhouse definition better fit the marketing direction for our client, which was what we were looking for. Per the code, quote, townhouse means a single family dwelling constructed in a series or groups of attached units with property lines separating each unit. And townhouses are a permitted use within the PRD. What has changed on the site plan? Aside from the imaginary fee simple property lines that basically divide each unit and fall within the basically party walls of the units, there are no noticeable changes to the site plan at all, or the development plans that were approved. The only changes or improvements that we've made at this point, which again, you're not approving the site plan, but which you'll see in January, if we get through tonight. Our additional doggy bag dispensers have been located throughout the project. Some additional landscaping has been added to the ends of the buildings and behind the back-to-back buildings. Additional landscaping is added around the tot lot and has beefed up along US Highway 1 as well. Again, there's been no additional units added to this plan, no additional pavement, no additional impervious areas, no reduction in green space, and no buildings have been enlarged or shifted throughout this site plan at all. And why does our client want fee simple? Fee simple with an HOA, they're a more marketable product for initial buyers and they're better for resale. They have a much higher buyer demand. There's a larger buyer pool with an HOA versus a COA, which is a condo association. Mortgage lending restrictions are much less with an HOA. Insurance is also less restrictive. HOA dues are significantly less than a COA. And there's less turnover issues with an HOA. And lastly, governing documents are much less inclusive with an HOA as well. I didn't want to get into the 3 waivers, but I know they're in your staff report, and you're not voting on those tonight, but I think there was a concern with us just asking for waivers. We are having to ask for 3 with this as a PRD. The first one is lot coverage, which essentially is building lot coverage. The code requires 30% maximum. We're at 30.9%. We have not increased the building lot coverage. We're not increasing it. The buildings have not grown. This is what we were approved for under the straight R2 zoning. Straight R2 allowed for 37%, while the PRD is 30%, so we're at 0.9% over top of what we're allowed in the lot coverage. The second waiver here is for open space. We're requesting the waiver. We don't really feel we need to. We feel we meet the code. Planning has asked us to ask for this waiver, so we are. 35% is the minimum required in a PRD. We're at 31.5% proposed. There has been no decrease in the open space from the approved plan. The R2 zoning requires a minimum of 30%, and this is kind of where the difference is. The R2 requires a minimum of 30% landscaped open space, while PRD requires a minimum of 35% open space. So that landscaped terminology is where it kind of differs. Because the definition of open space in your code, it says means that part of a lot, including courts or yards, which is open and unobstructed and is available for entry and use from its lowest level to the sky, and is available for entry and use by the occupants of the buildings on the premises, and may include space located and treated to enhance the amenity of the development by providing landscaping and or screening for the benefit of the occupants or neighboring areas. Open space may include water surfaces that comprise not more than 10% of total open space. However, required parking shall not be computed as required open space. So with that definition, we conclude that we meet the open space requirement. Basically what it's saying is that every horizontal plane on the site, minus the covered buildings, which is lot coverage, and all required parking, that gets excluded, and everything else is open space. That's what we were approved for initially. We had landscaped open space and we had open space, and that number was what we had on the site plan at that time. And that's pretty common with every municipality. Open space pretty much covers, for the most part, all open spaces minus buildings, and sometimes then parking areas. The last waiver we have is setbacks from right-of-way, which is a requirement of the PRD. It requires 25-foot front and 15-foot side corners. We proposed 18 and 22 in the front, and 7.6 and 11.33 on the side corners. Again, our setbacks have not changed from the approved plan. No buildings have shifted or enlarged. The only change here is that the old plan did not have a right-of-way. We do now. And the right-of-way is there because a PRD requires a subdivision plan, and then a subdivision plan requires that a right-of-way be provided. So we do have right-of-way lines. The setbacks, they're all the same. We still, the most important part is we have the 18-foot, which allows for cars to be parked and not block the road or not block the sidewalks. And lastly here, what Nelson mentioned, deviations to the PRD regulations are permissible. As part of the review and approval process by the village council may modify such regulations for the PRD, provided the spirit and intent of this chapter are complied with in the total development of the PRD. And so what I've done, I got just 2 site plans here. This is the approved site plan. You really can't see much of a difference. I don't think I can throw a light on. I don't think it'll show up on there. But that's the approved plan, and this will be the plan you'll see. Again, basically we've upgraded some landscaping, beefed up some landscaping on US 1, added some landscaping around the top lot, provided landscaping at the ends of all the units that abut any right-of-way, the open ends of the units, and we've added some landscaping behind the back-to-back buildings as well. So there's really not much of a difference you can see with the naked eye, I guess. We'd have to point them out. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Just so, if council would like to hear from the residents or people who've come, or if we want to talk first, I'm not excluding you, but I have to exclude you. So, excuse my guy. Do you want to hear from the residents first or from the public, or do you want to discuss this first?
I think hearing from residents makes sense.
Yeah, if there's residents that are here.
Okay. Lori, could you?
I have 4 cards.
Okay.
The first one is from Pat Watkins.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Mr. Allen. Pat Watkins, 167 River Drive. As most of you know, I'm a longtime resident here from 1981, in the area from 1977. I was on the council from 2003 to 2011. During that time, this property was actually at one time conceptually proposed to be a 12-story condominium high-rise, which of course never saw the light of day. Then we had another developer who wanted to do first floor commercial, 3 floors of condos above that. In the course of discussion with that, market tanked. That never happened. We've been vacant ever since. You have the opportunity here. I think you know that people want to live in Tequesta. It's a tribute to this council and manager that it's a desirable area. You have an opportunity, excuse me, these masks drive me nuts. We have an opportunity to add residential space to the village, and I want to encourage you to do so. The townhome concept, I was a practicing realtor from 2001 to 16. It is desirable. The garage space is desirable. It's in a location that's wonderful for live, work, walking, pedestrian, whatever. The idea that you can open into the public excuse me, plaza is wonderful. And I just want to encourage you to approve this. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori?
The other ones are online cards for me to read to the record.
Okay.
Cheryl Koenig, not in favor of the proposed 69-unit development at 734 to 746 US Highway 1 in Tequesta. I live across the street, and traffic is already congested in this area. Since US Highway 1 was taken down to 2 lanes, it is a nightmare getting out of our community at various times during the day. It is also bumper-to-bumper traffic at certain times, especially during the season. We don't need the addition of 150 cars in this small area. The next one is from John Hewling. Greetings and thank you for listening to my comments. I reside in Casa del Sol, directly north of the subject property, and I'm glad subject property has been approved for residential development. I understand the owner has leveraged the subject property several times and is trying to get most of his money back. Many residents feel the project is designed more for money reasons than keeping in line with our beautiful Tequesta community. My glasses keep fogging up. This being said, we are not opposed to the development in general. I have 2 concerns. One, the project density will bring additional traffic of approximately 138 new cars to the US 1 entrance of the development. As an impact study from the anticipated traffic challenging the value, hold on a second. Has an impact study from the anticipated traffic been done? If so, can you please share the outcome? 2, the subject project is likely to turn into rentals, thereby challenging the value of the Casa del Sol community. We already have a new community with 16 units directly west of our Casa del Sol development. These 16 units are now all rentals, as none have sold. Can rental restrictions be put on the new development such that Casa del Sol isn't surrounded by 85 rental units? I'm sure the council can appreciate our concern of a transient community developing around us. In conclusion, a reasonable solution for Casa del Sol could be to reduce the number of units and build more elegant structures. The problem of getting their return on land investments is turning away potential buyers as they do due diligence on the neighborhood. Respectfully submitted. And the last one is M. Kane. This letter is in regards to the application from Royal Tequesta LLC for a special exception use. Please, when reviewing this application, think of this beautiful Tequesta village. I understand things do not last forever. However, we don't need another housing development, especially one that has 69 units. Just think of this. How is that going to work? What about traffic, all those people and cars? How is this going to work with the new bike lanes that were installed? It makes absolutely no sense. If bad enough, we have to look at what they did to Jupiter. Now it's our turn. For what? Taxes, overcrowded schools, crime? Please, enough is enough. This is our village. Please add something on this land that is beneficial Hall like an essential business. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Councilmember, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think, I understand the concerns that have been expressed, but I think we've had land that's laid fallow for many, many, many years, and as former Mayor Watkins said, past councils have looked at numerous development proposals that have never come to pass. I do think there is a need for additional housing in the village. I don't think 130 cars or whatever the number might be on US 1 is significant. It's de minimis if you look at the total number of cars that traverse that highway every day. So I don't really think that's a valid argument or a valid concern. The one thing I would say is, while I like what I've seen with respect to the project, and I do agree that the townhome approach is far preferable to the condo, so I'm in favor of this. But I do think it's going to be critically important that the quality that you put into these, into this project is there. And so I hope when you come back and with what you propose, that you can clearly show that the quality of the project itself, in terms of the way the buildings will be finished, the internal finishing, et cetera, is going to measure up to the kind of standards we would hope that you guys would want to put forth. So those are my comments.
I want to say, this project actually has come before us when you weren't here, and went through P&Z, went through that whole process. So what's really happening here is just a method that's going to change from
Right.
condominium. So I think we were all pleased with that, I believe, at the time, because we passed that, all of us. It was unanimous, and it came before us 3 different times. So, Vice Mayor.
And in addition to that, there were studies done on making sure that there's enough capacity for schools and kids, traffic, everything associated with those concerns that were mentioned. I know one of them mentioned if we can post that, I guess it's on the record over a year ago or so. The main issue obviously is the plat and changing and the fee simple townhomes now. Can you help me understand on the ownership of what the townhome owner is going to have and the responsibilities? Is the roof going to be part of that, or is that HOA going to take, where does that line draw?
Well, the line will be from the party walls up, although I don't know, sometimes these communities, the townhomes roofs are covered by the unit owner, sometimes they're covered by the HOA. Or Steve, do you know, Steve, will the roofs be covered by the HOA or the homeowner?
Steve, would you please come up and just identify yourself for us, and so for the record?
Stephen Cohen with Royal Tequesta LLC. It will come back and it will spell out specifically in the homeowner association governing doc as to the responsibility and where the lot line lies.
I agree, though. Hopefully the roofs are an HOA. We're actually dealing with that problem in my neighborhood, my community, when the roofs are only shared by that individual, and you get an entire shared roof, it's a nightmare. So hopefully those documents will be written where it's an HOA expense and they just put it into reserves. But otherwise, everything outside of that fee simple line, which basically goes to the building footprint, will be HOA responsibility. So essentially it's just everything, it's just the structure itself would be owned and maintained by that owner.
And the land underneath.
I'm sorry?
And the land underneath.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
And I know that the HOA can somewhat control the rental aspect of it, and how long rents can you have short-term rents or long-term rents, or what are you anticipating now changing up?
That was requested at the last go-around, and I believe the docs have a 1-year requirement that's in there. I'd have to exactly go back, look specifically at what the language says, but part of the post-approval requirements was to share the governing docs with staff and with the village attorney, and they were going to review and provide any other comments or feedback. So that's where we're at with that.
Okay.
If approved, we would send, actually we did send an HOA for review. I believe we did, but we will be sending an HOA for review for your approval.
I think there was one attached to the packet of material that came out to us. But, I do have, this is off your situation. The statement was made that all the units in the development next door have all turned into rentals.
Right.
I haven't seen anything to validate that, I'd be curious as to whether we actually are able to determine if there's any validity to that statement. My understanding is most of those are sold, and I've seen maybe only one or two that came onto the rental market, so.
How is Casa del Sol platted?
How is it, I'm sorry?
Casa del Sol, how is it platted? Is it,
It's platted the exact same way, exactly the same. They just didn't have the requirement for some reason back then. I think maybe the code has changed, but they didn't have the requirement to put in a right-of-way, so they have a private, I think it's an access easement, so they didn't have the front setback requirement that we have.
okay.
All right.
Good.
Good. Any other questions? All right, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Good night.
You're very welcome. All right, item 11. This is a variance 0520, application of the Proxy LLC. This is having to do with the requirement to sell intoxicating liquors et al.
And Mayor, this is also a quasi-judicial proceeding, so I'll need to swear in anybody who's going to be speaking that wasn't previously sworn. I already got you, Nilsa. Is there anybody else that will be speaking on this matter?
Hi, I'm Tish Sawyer, the owner of the Proxy. My managing partner for the names.
Thanks. If you'll raise your right hands, do each of you swear or affirm under penalties of perjury that your testimony to the village council will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you very much. And then again, back to council for any disclosure of ex parte discussions on this item.
None.
None.
Then we can proceed with the item, Mayor.
All right.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. This application, I would like to enter into the records a letter from the First Baptist Church supporting this application. I will provide this letter to our village clerk.
Okay.
So, and also part of your package, there was also another letter from the Lighthouse Art Center supporting this application.
I didn't notice, but was Good Shepherd, were they part of
Good
this?
Shepherd, yes, I would like to ask specifically the applicant. I know they requested a letter from Good Shepherd, so as of today, we still were asking that question. Please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and council members.
If you could just identify yourself on the mic so we know who you were speaking
Yes,
with.
I'm Tish Sawyer, the owner of the Proxy LLC, and this is my managing partner, Kieran Mays.
All right, thank you.
We did have a meeting with Reverend Dr. Doug Scharf and also Heather Vaughn, the Director of Admissions and Development at the School of the Good Shepherd. They were very welcoming and supportive, and while I did send them a draft of a support letter, I emailed them after our meeting and thanked them, and they welcomed us to the neighborhood, and they were very supportive. I did send a draft and say, in my email, I have a copy of the correspondence. I said, it's not a requirement, but should you be inclined, you could send a letter. I haven't received it yet, but the welcome was very warm and the meetings went well with them.
All right.
We feel confident that they're on board, and we look forward to working with them for future events.
All righty. Do we have any questions?
No, I know Good Shepherd's been supportive of similar
Yes.
situations in the past, so I'm sure they
Right.
would be as well.
Any other questions?
I'm ready to come over and have lunch, walk across the street. So.
Well, I have a couple of questions. Do you have some before I start? Are you selling anything more than beer and wine?
Yes.
No, just beer, wine, sake, but, for alcohol-wise, beer, wine,
Yes.
sake. But our main component in the retail shop, open during the day, is dining goods, kitchenware, gift baskets. We have an open show kitchen where we can feature kitchen goods, and we're not open in the evening. We'll be open for a wine tasting once a week, and if people want to reserve our space for small, intimate, private parties or wine tastings, that's what the space is for.
Can I come in, not coming to an event, and buy a bottle of wine?
No, you cannot.
Okay. And you're not selling spirits, if you will? Go
No,
back to
we are
that.
not.
It is beer and wine.
Correct.
But again, it's not a retail store necessarily. You are accommodating the people that are coming for your wine tastings and or your, if you're doing dinners, things like that.
Yes.
Okay, those are my questions. Anything else? May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Good luck,
Thank you,
good luck,
Councilmember.
ladies.
Okay. Keep trying to lick my mask instead of. All right, I think I'm on to number 12, which is resolution number 40-20.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 4020, a resolution of the Village Council, Village of Tequesta, Florida, amending it and increasing the fiscal year 2019-2020 general fund number 001 budget by $91,376 to recognize casualty insurance premium taxes received in fiscal year 2019-2020, providing effective date and for other purposes.
Okay, is this one of the ins and outs?
Yes, precisely, Mayor. This, good evening, Mayor, council members. This item specifically is to recognize the state premium tax contribution to the pension trust. And it's basically going to be in, and we are transferring the money immediately out to the pension plan.
All right. Any questions on this item?
Only question I have is, when are we expecting to see the 175 money?
We've received I think for the fire pension trust, and we recently received it for the police, but I can double check.
Okay.
And get back with you.
All right, anything more? May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, let's do item number 13, resolution 41-20.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 4120, resolution of the Village Council, the Village of Tequesta, Florida, declaring certain property to be surplus and directing the village manager to dispose of surplus property in accordance with the village's adopted procedures, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the manager on this? I like the fact that it's all going to auction, quite frankly. That's what I understand. Is that right, Jeremy?
Yeah, and Doug's team does a great job of putting it out on auction and getting us a good return. So kudos to Doug's team for that.
Thank you, Doug. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 14, resolution 42-20.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 4220, a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Tequesta, Florida, adopting a revised schedule of fees and charges for the provision of water service rendered by the Village of Tequesta for citizens and other members of the public, providing that this revised schedule of fees and charges shall be available for inspection at all times at the Village Hall during regular business hours, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Okay, we've covered this in a workshop, haven't we? At this point, Matt, have we discussed this before?
Yes, ma'am. Back in August, this came for
That's
approval
right.
for the purchase of the water main on Harbor Road North from Wesley Oldham.
Right.
That was approved, completed. The agreement has been fully effectuated. This closes the loop. It was mentioned that the purchase price would be reimbursed by the fees collected from the remaining unconnected property owners on Harbor Road North. So this closes the loop by enacting that into our rates and fees, so that when new customers come on, specifically on Harbor Road North, that they're paying that portion, which is an order of magnitude less than what they had previously been required.
Okay. Any questions?
I was just going to ask, I know that this kind of opened the door for some of the billing questions. Are we going to be able to itemize the steps for each homeowner as they go through step 1, step 2, step 3 on the bill?
At this point, it's not a feature we're able to get. That's not information that we're able to get from our software BSNA. We've had emails and conversations with them, and they're not able to accommodate us on that at this point.
So we can't set up the amount of gallons that have been used and say the first 10,000 goes here and the next 13,000 or whatever goes here? And
Unfortunately, not on the bills at this point with the current software that we have.
okay.
All right. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
All right, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 15, Resolution 43-20.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 4320, resolution of the Village Council, Village of Tequesta, Florida, declaring intent to reimburse the general fund, building fund, and water fund from the proceeds of a future lease purchase financing for certain capital expenditures approved in the fiscal year 2021 budget, expressing the intent for purposes of compliance with United States Treasury Regulation Section 1.150-2E, providing for the issuance by the Village of tax-exempt debt in one or more series in an aggregate principal amount not exceeding $479,600 to pay the cost of such capital expenditures and providing an effective date and for other purposes.
I'd like to hear from Hugh on
Yes.
this one, please.
Mayor, this item essentially is to enable us to be in accordance with the IRS regs, which specifically require that the village make an official declaration of intent to reimburse itself anytime we contemplate entering into a borrowing transaction. And so in this case, we're going to acquire several items, one of which is the sand project, which we have described during the audit, rather the budget process. The total price of that will be $230,000. And then secondarily, we'll be acquiring some police vehicles to lease. And so what the requirements portend is that we have to first front the money and then get reimbursed through the lease transaction. So
Okay.
effectively, this is just saying that we're going to reimburse ourselves in
All right.
accordance with our regs.
Any questions?
Yeah, if we're going to front this cost and reimburse ourselves, we're reimbursing ourselves over multiple years, but we're fronting it at the outset. So when you look at your budget, what's that going to do to your budget?
Oh, so what the budget does is in the first year, it's going to be a wash with the exception of the debt service payment, the principal and interest for the first year. And so I hope I'm understanding your question correctly. So we're going to budget for lease proceeds as well as the purchase of the equipment. And for the subsequent years, in this case, it's a 5-year lease. We're going to recognize the debt service over those 5 years. So basically, the effect is you're spreading the payment over 5 years, inclusive of the interest.
Okay, no, I understand we're spreading the payment over 5 years, but the way I understood you were saying is that we had to recognize the entire cost up front, and then we were going to reimburse ourselves over that 5-year period.
Precisely.
So what I'm trying to get my arms around is when you recognize the entire expense up front, you don't have that corresponding reimbursement. So it's going to make your budget appear out of whack, is it not? I guess
Yes and no.
I've never heard that. This is not the way, in business, you would not do it this way.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm trying to understand how this works. I understand government accounting rules can be a little bit different. I just want to have a grasp of how this is going to flow through.
It's rooted in the fact that it's kind of historical in nature. Way back when governments used to budget with their general revenues, then they would purchase, undertake projects and so forth, and they would say, okay, let's borrow the money and reimburse ourselves. And so what the IRS said is, this is a little bit too haphazard. In order for you to issue debt and finance with those proceeds any project, you have to make an official declaration of intent within 60 days of undertaking that expenditure. So what effectively the IRS is trying to do, and it dates back in history, they're trying to prevent governments from borrowing after the fact. So if we were to, say, purchase an ambulance or police squad cars, and then after the fact would say, you know what, we could borrow the funds to reimburse ourselves. So it's to prevent governments from reimbursing themselves, and it hinges on them reimbursing themselves and then taking those proceeds and earning a higher rate of interest. And it's primarily, it lies into the arbitrage. It goes deeply into, you know, some of those concepts as well. Governments used to borrow the funds and earn a higher rate of interest. And so it's rooted into the arbitrage rules, and it's some other reasons as well, but that's the primary goal, to prevent the governments from earning a higher rate of interest.
And
with
I
those borrowed
understand
funds.
what you're explaining there, but so.
What I'm thinking maybe is you need to get with him.
I may
and
want to have an
say-
offline conversation, because I'm looking at
Yeah,
this.
Yeah, let's-
If you're leasing it and you've got a stream of lease payments, you don't
Yeah.
need to borrow the money up front. But
maybe
I'll talk to
that you
separately.
can
But I-
get together and do
just to
this.
quickly tell you, it's typically done within the same fiscal year. And what you're saying is I understand your point. We try to time the proceeds of the lease within the same fiscal year, because if we don't, it is going to turn us upside down. And that is the main intent here, to try and do this transaction within the same fiscal year. So you're correct, I see what you're saying. If we don't time it within the same fiscal year, the expenditure and the receipt of the lease proceeds, we are going to have a budgetary imbalance.
Okay.
So I'm
But you
sorry,
can
I
get-
understand your point.
All right,
Yeah.
anything else? No. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Item 16, Resolution 44-20.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 4420, resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Tequesta, Florida, authorizing an amendment to the fiscal year 2020/2021 General Fund Number 001 budget by increasing revenue and expenditures in the amount of $20,916 to utilize the remaining balance of the Police Department Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Grant Program, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
All right, thank you. I was a little confused about this at first because we don't normally do it this way. We usually take the 50,000 that we had, we do our ins and outs, and we didn't, but this is just catching up and
This is
doing it
just
properly.
The last part of it.
Any other questions? May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 17, approve work authorization HCE-U21- or .01. And this is Mr. Hammond.
Good evening again. This is, there we go. This item is related to the water main replacement program that was outlined in the capital improvement program, the approved budget. This tackles water main replacements along Tequesta Drive and Country Club Drive, as well as a couple side streets. This is the work authorization for the engineering services to for design, permitting, and construction services to implement that project.
Okay. Any questions about this item?
The South Florida Water Management Districts, it was Loxahatchee. Who's doing the sewer project that's going to?
Loxahatchee River District.
So this doesn't cross over the work they're going to be doing?
They have I have been in contact with them over the past, since I've been here. They have a force main project that's going on the northern part of Country Club Drive. They're manifolding some of their lift stations together. But we're in coordination on those, that we're not stepping on each other's toes.
Okay.
What's the timing on this?
Well, design will start right away with the goal of bidding out next summer, and then construction will continue into the following calendar year. So construction second half of 2021 and into 2022.
Would it require, on Country Club where we're doing the sidewalk, any issues there, or?
So this was specifically timed and broken up to coordinate with the sidewalk projects. That's why the sidewalk project that Public Works completed just recently, it looks great, ended at East Wind Circle.
Right.
So that this project, this one picks up and can be completed so that we're not having to redo sidewalks that we had just put in.
Okay.
Anything else on this one? May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Matt. Item 18, authorized piggyback contract. It looks like, I know we've got 4, and I think we've all seen these before in terms of what they are, but one at a time. The Odyssey Manufacturing Company for purchasing sodium, I'm going to say this wrong, hypochlorite?
Yes, ma'am. Bleach.
Bleach, oh, thank you.
Yeah, so the first one is with Odyssey Manufacturing. It's a piggyback agreement off of the City of Daytona Beach competitively selected contract for the purchase of high-strength bleach that's used in the disinfection process at the water plant. The pricing on this is actually a little bit less than what we had been getting. We were paying 65 cents a gallon. Now we're down to 63. So we did get a little bit of savings off this. I believe it is a one-year piggyback, and there are 4 one-year renewal options available afterwards at both parties' discretion.
Okay. Any other questions on this? May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Item 19, I think it kind of looks like the same thing, except it's a different percentage of bleach.
This one's actually caustic, which is a different chemical, sodium hydroxide.
Oh, it's not bleach now?
No, we're a different one.
Here, I thought I was learning a new.
So the sodium hypochlorite is for disinfection. The sodium hydroxide or caustic is for pH adjustment.
Okay.
This raises the pH at a particular
All
point
right.
in the treatment process. This is taking advantage of a one-year renewal option from quotes that we had received last year. Same price, same vendor. We didn't have any issues. So we're mutually agreeing to extend this for 1 year. So this is an amendment that's doing so.
Okay. All
With
right,
the
thank you.
associated purchase order to go along with it.
I have a simple operational question, so I can get educated. This says we're going to use 87 dry tons. So do they just bring that in as needed and we just put it wherever it needs to go? Or do we actually store this stuff? Or?
Yeah, it's stored in a bulk storage tank. So as it gets lower, then our operators put it in order.
Okay, so we actually have a tank on site that can store this?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next one, again, don't go anywhere.
2 more.
I know, I was going to say, don't go anywhere, it looks like. This is the item 20, and sheriff's bid piggyback contract. This is for the Silverado 2500 HD pickup truck.
Yep, so included in the fiscal year '21 budget was the replacement of two vehicles within the department. The first one of which is in our distribution division. It replaces a 2006 F-150 with a similarly sized Chevy Silverado, including the requisite safety equipment, lighting, and storage in the storage boxes in the bed. So the budget included the approved budget at $36,000 based on the Florida Sheriff's with the required additions to it. That comes in at $31,876.
I have a question. What happens to the truck that it's replacing? It's not on the list that we just approved.
Not
Because
yet.
we haven't approved this. So will that auction go to auction? Are you planning on keeping it?
No, ma'am. It's replacing. We're replacing it for a reason. So it'll be put at auction. That's
Okay.
Put that at the end of the staff memo. The existing 2006 F-150 will be sold at auction, and the proceeds returned to the enterprise fund.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? May I, do I? I can't tell, Frank, you're leaving.
No,
Oh, you're
I
good.
don't. I don't.
May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. One more.
I was just leaning so you could see me.
I wasn't quite sure. You're going towards the microphone. Item 21, again, a sheriff piggyback contract.
Yes, and I think this concludes our speed round.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
So this one replaces a 2008 Ford F-350. This is a larger, heavy-duty pickup truck that's used primarily by the water plant. It has a trailer hitch for throwing the generators. It also has a Tommy gate for being able to lift up and transport motors and large pieces of equipment that they have at the that they have to move to well sites and around the plant. So again, this is off the Florida Sheriff's bid. The approved budget had $41,000 budgeted for this, with the required safety lighting, et cetera. The pricing that we were able to obtain came in at $35,027.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on this one?
I noticed that we have a truck or a vehicle that's got the Notre Dame tag on the front. Is this one of them?
This is not one of them.
I mean, can I recommend that?
That'll be the next one.
That'll be the next one?
Next one, okay.
I'll
Just
make-
checking.
What do you want to?
I can make sure that there's an orange and blue one on the front of it, if that's all right.
I can provide one if you would like.
No, it needs to be University of Miami. though.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna, let's not get into this.
But I do want to commend the department on really taking good care of the vehicles for as long as you have. I've had people complain to me that the department's got all these brand-new vehicles, and I try to let them know that they're fairly old. So great job on keeping them, making them last.
They do a really good job of keeping them clean and upkeep, and then the Public Works Department, they provide great support as far as whenever there's any repairs that are needed. Roughly, we're targeting approximately a 12-year turnaround on the pickup trucks. So balancing the maintenance needs versus the capital cost, but we wouldn't be able to do that without them taking great care of it.
Great job.
Just curious, how many miles are on those trucks?
Oh, I do not know, but I can get back with you on
Oh,
that.
I was just curious. You might know off the top of your head.
I'm sorry, I don't.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, any other questions?
No.
May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are
Now,
down,
I do have a question for Matt, though, off this subject.
oh, okay.
We had talked a couple months ago about some of the well refurbishments, and possibly even a new well. I was just curious as to where we stood on that, or trying to rehabilitate, I said refurbishment. We were rehabilitating a couple of wells.
Yeah, great question. We are wrapping up here before Thanksgiving the preliminary design for those rehabilitations. That's with the goal that I'm pushing our consultants for, to have the next phase, the design phase of that, to be able to bring that work authorization to you at the next council meeting.
Were we still looking at perhaps drilling a new well? I know there were a couple of spots that you'd identified as potential sources, depending on how the rehabilitations went.
So there are four wells that were identified in our well field condition assessment, 4 wells that were identified as requiring a full replacement. The 3 wells that are located at Tequesta Park, and then an additional well that's a little bit southwest of there in a neighborhood. The 3 wells that are at Tequesta Park are planned to be, at this point, planned to be replaced at the same location that they are. Drill a new hole over top of the old one, put new casing and mechanical equipment in, meeting today's guidelines and requirements. The 4th one, which is the one that's in a neighborhood and behind some houses, that one we're working on finding a new location for. It's just in a bad spot.
Okay.
So wouldn't make sense to.
Try and redo that.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other matters we are at?
No.
Anything for you?
Good.
For you?
I'm
I
good.
have something I want to read into the record. After what will be 10 years on the council, and as I mentioned at the April meeting when I was selected to serve as mayor for another year, I am confirming my retirement and will not be running for an additional term. Should anyone wish to run for seat 2 or for seat 4, please contact Lori McWilliams as soon as possible. The qualifying period is December 1st through the 15th, but you must meet with Lori prior to that. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
You're be missed.
Thank you.
Yes, you will.